All right, boys and girls, welcome back to the channel. Today we are going to do a review of the new Arias CR16 irons from TrueZeroOffset.com. As you can see, these are the newest release. They're made of a new proprietary softer steel. The old steel was great, but the newer steel, it feels more like a forged iron to me specifically. But anyway, we're going to take these irons to the short game area. We're going to hit some pitches and some chips with the new wedges, which are going to be our Arias MS-29s here. Sand wedge, we're going to be taking this out to the short game area along with the lob wedge and the gap wedge. Just to get this thing started off properly, I want to be very clear, this is not an unbiased review. I've been playing these irons now for the last 5 years. I started with the D23s, and I've been working very closely with the owner and the club maker himself to make improvements to these irons over the years. And essentially what we have now is a product that I feel rivals the best in the game. I feel like the Arias wedges, the MS-29s, are equally, if not better than the Vokey irons, and that's mostly because of the sharper leading edge and the lower bounce. And I also feel like the actual CR16 irons now they rival Mizuno or even Miura in feel, and because you can bend them flatter and because they have zero offset, I feel like they're the most accurate ball striking irons on the market. So hope you guys enjoy this review. And again, if you're new to my channel, I'm an independent content creator. So I spent the last 10 years of my life taking a journey through the golf world to discover all of the intricate details and the secrets behind playing great golf. I am now trying to make it onto some tour, get status somewhere, whether it be Korn Ferry, PGA Tour, or even just a mini tour. That would be nice. But unfortunately, the game is very expensive. So this is how I am trying to pay for it. So if you can, hit that subscribe button for me. I'd really appreciate it. Just watching the content helps me get paid in Google dollars, AdSense dollars, which is important, but you only get about 1 cent for every 100 views. So, if you hit that subscribe button and you view my content, I'd really appreciate it. It helps me out a ton. If you're looking to transform your game, I have tried every method on the market, from stack and tilt all the way to the A-swing by Ledbetter. And trust me, there's nothing in between I haven't tried, but I finally landed on the Hogan method. And no, I'm not talking about my swing evolution. I've actually gone through the advanced ball striking system through Bradley Hughes, who's probably one of the best teachers in the country, if not the world at this point in time. And I have to say that I've developed quite the understanding of proper golf techniques. And I've developed my own system, one that you can learn and teach yourself as you go, and will provide you with enough information throughout the entire game where you really don't need other coaching. And for those of you self-starters out there, I want to encourage you to hit the join button. It's very important to me that I grow my Academy membership. I'm trying to take the game to the new golfer post-COVID, the recreational guy that's new to the game, that's fallen in love, but they're finding it very frustrating because the amount of data that's compiling on social media can be very confusing. So you will learn every facet of the game imaginable, from short game, mental game, putting, full swing, driver, hitting fairway woods off the deck, hitting driver off the deck. Whatever you're looking for, I've got it somewhere inside of my YouTube channel. So again, independent content creator. I would love for you to be a part of the TMG Academy. But for now, we're going to hop into this review of the Arias CR16 irons as well as the MS-29 wedges. Hope you guys enjoy. As you can see here, I've got about a little 10-yard chip just off the green. I've got my lob wedge. Again, this is the MS-29. We're just going to talk through what I've learned. And again, my reviews are a little bit different. I don't review golf clubs the same way most people do. I actually like to work with them for a month, sometimes up to 90 days. And in this case, I've been actually working with these clubs for 2 months. So I've hit every shot that you can possibly think imaginable at this point. Probably played, I'd say, at least a dozen or more rounds with them. So you guys are going to get a full understanding of how these clubs work and where I feel like they compete with the name brands and why I think you should consider purchasing these. So we're going to start here with our little 10-yard chip. And again, I want to be clear, I'm not unbiased. I've been using these clubs for 5 years. I truly believe in the technology behind them. But again, you guys know me. I'm all about geometry and physics, as well as biomechanics, and I feel like there's no better club on the market for aiming and consistent shot making than the Arias irons and wedges, now that they've been made with a newer, softer metal. So we're just going to hit a couple chips and kind of find our range here. It's a little bit hard. And then I'm going to talk you through the versatility that these wedges provide that you really can't find in newer wedges because of the additional technology. So there we go. That's about the touch that we're looking for. There's a little 2-footer there. Essentially what I'm doing is I'm just hitting a standard hinge and hold chip, landing at about 2 to 3 feet on the green, letting it run to the cup. It's got a little left-right break on it, not too bad. And I'm hitting it out of, we'll say, freshly mowed fringe. The grass is part zoysia, part bent, looks like. So essentially, the ball is going to check really well if it's captured, and if it's not, it'll roll pretty good. So for this particular shot, I'm trying to hold them out because this is a very hole-out distance, hole-outable distance. We're getting pretty close. That was about a foot from the hole, maybe. That's probably only 6 inches, actually. And as you can see, it's very consistent in the way that it reacts, almost in, and the way that it rolls out. So these greens are freshly cut. They're in really good shape. And if you catch them just right, they react exactly the same every single time. If you catch them a little thin, you know exactly what's going to happen. And for this shot, I'm just going to catch it a little bit fat so you can kind of see how that reacts. So as you can see, it's very consistent. And the reason for that being is because there's no offset, and the head itself is very, very, very consistent all the way through. There's no hollowness to this head. It's just one piece cast together of 304 stainless steel metal. Okay, so if you catch it good like that one, you can expect it's going to have a chance to go in the hole. If you hit it a little thin, hopefully it runs into the hole and drops. If you hit a little fat, it's just going to roll out, maybe be a little left or right of your target. But for the most part, close chipping, you have really good feels. And again, I did no warm-up out here, and I almost made 2 of them. And I would say, what's that, 10 balls? So love these wedges. I would compare them to a Titleist Vokey, but not a newer Vokey, one of the original Vokey wedges, which to me is probably the greatest wedge ever made. And this particular wedge, when I look down at it, let's go ahead and show you guys what that looks like. So this particular wedge, when you look down at it here, you can see it's very, very flat to the ground. So I can open this thing all the way up, or I can close it all the way down, and I've got a nice sharp leading edge to do a lot of really good stuff with. So essentially, this is like the original Vokey, but an even better wedge that probably nobody's ever talked about was the Ben Hogan Carnoustie series. And when I look down at this wedge, I feel like I'm hitting an old Carnoustie wedge. And I don't know, man, I've hit them all. I used to sell vintage golf clubs on eBay for years, and I've probably sold 1920s to 2010s technology, and I gotta say, there's no better wedge I've ever tested than the Ben Hogan Carnoustie, and this is the modern version of that. So for more advanced players, or even players that are just looking for something with a little more playability, you can do a ton with these wedges. It has a sharp edge, beautiful grind, low bounce, and very, very, very solid grooves. So big fan of the MS-29s. All right, so the next area of evaluation that everybody wants to see is out of the rough. So today we actually have some pretty good rough here at Todd Creek Golf Course, just outside of Denver, Colorado. So the rough's, I don't know, maybe 1.5 inches long. It's pretty solid. We're just gonna hit, now this pin is running away, and normally I would hit a lob wedge here, but for these intended purposes, I'm gonna actually hit a sand wedge so you guys can kind of see how it reacts, see the difference between the 2 clubs. And again, I love the grind on these. I love the sharp leading edge. every club is designed exactly the same, which nowadays there's so many balances, so many grinds that people can get confused. But with Arias, that's not a thing. They're all the same club. They're all designed very similarly. This is great out of the sand. It's great out of the rough. And I have versatility with shaft lean, opening, closing the shaft, so shaft axis, club face, all that stuff. So anyway, we're going to open this up and just kind of hit some little floppy chips here at this pin with the sand wedge. And as you can see, it comes out of the rough really easily. And this is a thicker rough, you know, we're sitting down here. So let's try to land that a little bit shorter. I mean, it just comes out so pure. There's no issue with it whatsoever. So one of the things I love about Arias is that I know how to expect the ball to react. I know exactly what it's going to do no matter what shot I'm hitting around the green. Whereas like with Vokey and other clubs, sometimes it would pop out a little weird because the rough would interact with the bounce and all the other stuff very oddly. So that was more of a chip shot. As you can see, it checked, and I can always anticipate an Arias wedge checking, whereas sometimes you'll hit like a Vokey wedge and it won't check. And there we go. There's two in a row right there that checked. And, you know, it's a pretty tough shot. So anyway, let's hit some good ones here. So if I were actually hitting this shot, I'd want to hit it a little higher. I'd want to sweep under it a touch. So we're going to throw it right on the front of the green there. Really get some backward shaft lean and just trust. And as you can see, look how soft that comes out. You know, there's no hollowness to this face. And that's a big deal for me because my feels will stay intact with these clubs because it's pure metal. There's no hollowness, there's no technology in here that's going to take away from my ability to aim this club or to hit it consistently. So I know exactly how it's going to react every time. As you can see, it comes out extremely high, extremely soft, and this isn't even the club that I would typically use from this shot. Okay, so try not to pay too much attention about how close it's getting. I'm hitting out of the rough with a club I don't typically use, but I just wanted to show the versatility of the sand wedge and how it can be opened up and played just like a lob wedge. So, and just for fun, I'm going to hit a few with this same sand wedge off of tight lies to show you how well it sweeps versus like a Vokey or something. If you hit down on it, it's going to grab, but this has a real sharp leading edge and it just cuts right through any turf. So at least out here in Colorado, I'm sure if I was on stickier turf like Bermuda, it might grab a little, but with the sharper leading edge, I can really do a lot more with the golf shots. I can hit them low with a lot of spin because I'm not afraid to hit down and through the ball and let it actually spin, which is an old school technique, something that, you know, Lee Trevino used to use and those guys. And understand that it's kind of been lost because the technology has made chipping and putting so easy now that technique has gone sideways. But what if you have a lie like this and you need to put a lot of spin on it? Well, now I can't. And honestly, I've tried this shot with Vokey wedges, having offset, having a much more rounded leading edge, and it's been an issue for me. So for me, it's the perfect club because I'm a little more old school player, and I feel like it returns all those old techniques back to me that I learned growing up from some of the greatest people with the greatest hands I've ever seen in the game. So, you know, if I'm sitting on a fluffy lie like this, I can really throw that club under the ball and put a lot of spin on it and do much more with it than I could do in the past with the new modern technology, which, again, there are a lot of guys that would advocate play the modern technology, but for me, growing up with persimmons and bellatas, these wedges are far superior in every way, shape, and form because the sweet spot is smaller, the aiming is more refined, the leading edge is sharper, and the grind and the bounce just, I mean, it doesn't matter what turf I'm on, I can fillet this thing if I want to. And even with the gap wedge, I can do that. So really fillet it because I've got that sharp leading edge and it's going to come out. It's going to spin as that one did. Okay, so again, this is the sand wedge. Not really trying to, if with the lob wedge, I could hit that a little higher, but with the sand wedge, you know, just pop it straight up, no issue at all. And that's kind of what we're looking for, or at least I'm looking for with technique when it comes to wedges around the green. All right, so let's take a minute to talk about playing out of big trouble like this, where it's dried out underneath, you've got high, tall grass, so we're just gonna put it right down in here. The club can grab, and I'm just gonna work my way forward. I'm gonna hit one ball out of each section so you can kind of see the differences. So we'll hit one out of here, one off this hard pan, in between the bushes, one, you know, kind of just outside the bushes, so you guys get a feel for exactly how awesome these wedges are. So I'm gonna use my lob wedge here. This is what I would normally use. Unless it was sitting up in the grass, then I might use like a gap wedge or something, maybe even a pitching wedge. But here's what they're not telling you in the modern game about shots like this, which I find a lot of recreational golfers hit into, is if you don't have a sharp leading edge, you can't swing confidently through the grass because it'll slide left or right, and sometimes right through the ball, and you get these weird shots that come out of the grass. What I found with these Arias wedges, swing them normal and they come right out, just like so. And that was a little far, but you kind of get the idea there. So now I'm kind of sitting in a bird's nest. It is sitting up a little bit, so let's just grab a sand wedge and see what that does. So now I've got more mass, I've got a sharp leading edge. I don't have to worry about the grass. I just have to chop it, just like I would if I was cutting grass to a certain point. Look at that, comes right out. Very predictable, very, very predictable, okay? So same thing on this shot, actually, because it's sitting up in the rough. You know, normally without a sharp leading edge, it's gonna grab a little bit or it's gonna slide left or slide right. But with these wedges, what I've found is that sharp leading edge with the grind and the bounce makes it very predictable coming out of this type of a grass. And I can trust it's going to always come out the same, which increases my ability to feel shots in really bad places around the green. And honestly, my up and down percentages this year have gone up. Now, just to reiterate, it might be because I'm used to playing, you know, ancient technology, so to speak, but I truly feel like sometimes simpler, more refined is better than too much technology, especially when it comes to something that requires touch, feel, imagination, and creativity. Next shot we're gonna talk about a little bit here is hitting a pitch. We'll say, you know, this is maybe 20, 25 yards to an elevated green where everything's running away from you and you're on a very tight lie. Now I see a lot of recreational golfers struggling with this. They tend to hit it too far. And the reason for that being is because with the modern wedges, you get a lot of bounce. And so if you dig, you put that leading edge down, it comes out and it rolls. If you open it up, sometimes it comes out too high and spinny, and you can't seem to find that middle range. Well, welcome to the world of Arias, where simplicity is better and our feels are going to be increased because we have a sharp leading edge and we can just swing normal and not worry about how it's going to come out because it will check. Just like that. Look at that, perfect. And I mean, it literally reacts the same way every time. I don't have to sit here and mess with shaft lean. I don't have to create a shot every time. I just have to aim it, maintain neutral shaft lean, swing it, catch it solid, and it checks every single time. It's one check, hop, roll. Usually rolls about half the distance you flew it. So let's try to get this one real close again. Just like that. Hop, check, roll out, half the distance. I'm within a foot of the hole. And to make matters better, or even worse, I'm on a side hill lie. So, you know, the ball's slightly above my feet. With the sharp leading edge, you're not going to have the issue of sliding into the ball because you have too much of a bounce or a grind on the leading edge that softens the wedge. So in wet conditions, dry conditions, it doesn't matter. You're going to have more consistent contact, which is going to lead to more consistent feel. Just like so. Go in the hole. One time. just a touch short, but I think you guys get the idea. So let's move on and start hitting some bunker shots, which is something that a lot of people struggle with. But I assure you, these wedges, they're going to change the game for you. All right, so here we are in the bunker. I've set up 4 balls here in fairly good sand. This sand's a little wet, it's a little thin, but for the most part, we should be able to get the ball out. And again, I love using a lob wedge, but I've tested the Arias sand wedge. It's pretty solid for recreational golfers, but at my level, I got to put a lot more spin on it, do a lot more with it. And I found, because you have a sharp leading edge, and because you have bounce and an axis you can spin on, your ability to understand the angles at which you want to hit out of a bunker are greatly increased. So for instance, I want to hit this high, so I know my angle into the sand is going to be like here, so that I can slide across it and really zip it when it gets on the green. A little something like this. So that's about a foot from the hole. So as I've tested wedges in the past, I've learned that sometimes they have too much bounce. They don't have a sharp enough leading edge, so my day-to-day wedge game out of the bunker isn't that good because I don't have a sharp leading edge to really show me angles more clearly. And again, I'm a geometric golfer. Everything I do is about geometry. So I need to know how far it's going to come out when I go under it at a certain angle. So again, see here it's slightly wet, but because I have a sharp leading edge, I was able to really zip that thing. Let's go to more of a centered bunker here. Nice flat lie. Now I know I can be a little more shallow. I don't have to be as steep, and I can really do a lot more with it. Just like that. So now it comes out, it's much more of a splash type shot. And then finally, we have off of a downhill lie, but good sand. You know, we got to lean a little into it, but I can really feel my angle better, and I know I'm going to be hitting it here to get it up in the air. Just like so. Go in the hole. Oh, just barely. So the key takeaway out of the bunker with these wedges is that the sharp leading edge actually improves your ability to understand the geometry of how to hit out of a bunker if you're a good enough player and you understand the concepts of hitting bunker shots. But what if you don't have a good lie? What if you're playing out of bad sand? Well, this sand is packy and wet. I haven't raked it. It's not very good shape, which you'll come across a lot of recreational golfers having to hit out of bunkers like this. And what I found with the sharp leading edge, I don't even have to open the club face up. Just get a little neutral shaft lean, take a normal chip shot. Look how awesome that comes out of nice wet bunkers. And again, if you don't have a sharp leading edge, you can't do that because it will slide into the ball because the bounce will engage early and the club will slide. But if you have a sharp leading edge and you hit down and into the ball, it comes out every time the same exact way. So it isn't really a guessing game anymore. When it comes to different lies in the bunker, you just have to change your geometry. Just like so. All right, so that one came out a little floppy, but I was more talking to you guys and focusing on the shot. Anyway, I think my point's been made. I hope you guys have learned a lot from this review around the green with these particular wedges. Now let's hit some pitch shots. We'll say 30 to 40 yards over this bunker so you can get a feel for how well this thing spins. All right, so we have the dreaded over the bunker carry to a short-sided pin that I see every recreational golfer in the world turn into a double bogey or worse, okay? With the sharp leading edge, you can trust a lot more in the club. I don't have to manipulate the club face anymore. I just have to swing. And it does all the work for me, which is what we're looking for. So let's say I was trying to get this close. I wanted to open it up. Now, my geometry and my aim points are a lot tighter, so I can swing more confidently, knowing it's going to flop on the green, just like that. Oh, hit a ball at the top, but I had a ton of spin on that. Again, because I have a sharp leading edge, I could really cut across it and do a lot with it. There you go. So now it's going to spin. It's going to have a lot of bite to it, and I don't have to be worried that I'm going to slide into it and hit it off the toe, off the high point of the toe or anything like that. I just have to swing it and know on consistently what it's going to do. Just like that. And again, it gives you the ability to put bite on shots that you can't get with modern wedges. So again, maybe I'm a little biased because I grew up old school, but I would give the Arias MS-29 a 10 out of 10 with these particular shots. I feel like I can get them very close. Heck, half the time I feel like I could even hold them. All right, boys and girls, welcome back to the channel. So this is the second part of the Arias CR16 review, where we're actually going to review the irons now. We're going to walk through why zero offset is so important, how it allows you to aim much, much easier, and essentially how your technique is going to actually improve using a golf club like this, even though it may seem like it's a little bit harder just from the basic top line view. So as you can see, it looks very much like a blade, and a lot of folks would look at this and say, Jeremy, that's a little too hard to hit for me. But the reality is it's not as hard as you think, because it forces proper technique. And as you guys know, I'm a huge geometry guy. If the geometry and the physics don't line up, i.e. you add offset to a golf club, it takes away what I call proprioception, which is our ability to sense the target in space. So we lose our geometric capability because our lines get off, our angles get off, and then we have to manipulate the club face with the tiny muscles in our hands at impact, which leads to off days ball striking. And as you guys know, that's not what I teach here at the TMG Academy. So we use physics, geometry, biomechanics to hit the ball consistently, day in and day out. And that's why I've chosen the Arias CR16 irons. So let's get into the review. Thanks guys for watching. Hey guys, just a quick reminder, I am an independent content creator. I'm doing all this myself so that I can get back into competition. So if you could take a moment to hit the subscribe button, that'd be great. And if you want to, join the Academy. We have a ton of great content out there, a ton of great members that are really starting to interact with each other and grow their games in ways that they didn't know was possible. So take 5 minutes, check out the membership side, hit the subscribe button, ring the bell so you get notifications on new content, and we will see you soon. Enjoy the content. So one of the things I see in a lot of reviews is they don't go through every single club in the bag. They talk a little bit about club design, the benefits of the technology, etc., but they don't go into the club, hit a pitching wedge, talk specifically about what's good about that club, and then go to the 9-iron, 8-iron, 7-iron. So this is a very comprehensive review. For those of you that want to skip ahead, I will post the TrackMan numbers at the very end so you can just see, in my opinion, why Arias golf clubs are better suited for the everyday golfer, because the geometry is far more consistent and you're not fighting inertia of a toe connected to an offset golf club. So when you release to the target, you can fully release it and never worry about hooking it or anything bad. Essentially, worst case scenario, you might pull it with a little open club face, it'll fade back towards the target, and you'll be a more consistent golfer with clubs like this. What I want to talk about is the fact that you can bend these clubs flatter than most clubs on the market. These in particular are bent 6 degrees flat, but I've had them in the past bent all the way up to 8 degrees. And the reason for that being is because they do have zero offset. So you don't have the fear of cracking the hosel because there's more integrity in the golf club. So this is the pitching wedge, which I notice a lot of people struggle with hitting straight. And again, that's not a problem with Arias golf clubs because you're not fighting the offset. So your release pattern is just going to be more consistent with less timing. So for me, one of the things I really love about the design of this club is that it is a muscle back, and it does have a very sharp leading edge, which is a little dirty, but in comparison to most golf clubs on the market, that leading edge is going to give you a far purer strike of the golf ball. And if you hit it a little heavy or a little thin, you're going to get the same results because you got the muscle back that's going to allow the club to hit the ball with the same velocity and essentially fly it almost as far as you would on a pure golf shot. So now we have the 9-iron here, and for me, the thing about the 9-iron that I love in this golf club that you won't find in other golf clubs is, in fact, the entire set of Arias clubs, is the lofts are traditional. They're not strong. So you're not going to have to worry about hitting a 9-iron 200 yards on occasion because you just turned it down a little bit too much and the technology just turned that golf ball into a rocket. So traditional lofts, no offset, a little bit of muscle back technology for mishits, and what you end up with is something that develops technique far superior. And so I hit a lot of knockdown 9-irons because I tend to be in between, we'll say, 140 and 160 a lot on longer par 4s. And so I found that a more accurate shot is a knockdown 9-iron. And with a lot of the modern golf clubs, I struggle with this shot because there's so much offset. It's hard to get the trajectory right. It's hard to get the geometry right. But with this 9-iron, I don't have to change anything. There's not so much technology that I have to sit there and manipulate the club head in 72 different ways to manage the hollow face technology, etc. I just step in, choke up about half an inch, narrow my stance, shorten my swing, and what I essentially get is a controlled golf shot. Just like that. So now I can hit that 140 to 160 yardage when I'm in between clubs without the worry of hitting it left or right because I've got to open the club face or I've got to, really get a lot of forward shaft lean put in the back of my stance because of the offset, etc. So for those of you looking for something a little more forgiving, they do make a model called the D23, which is a cavity bag design, as you can see, and it gives you a little thicker top line. So it's not quite as blade-like over the ball. So you can really set into it, aim correctly, have the peace of mind that you're going to hit a solid golf shot even if you toe it or heel it. Now, this club probably isn't quite as good for technique if you're trying to be a more advanced golfer. This will be good if you're an amateur that doesn't have much time to practice. You're just looking for something that aims a little easier. But if you're looking for something that builds technique, you'll be far better off with the CR16. But with that being said, it's still a great golf club, and it is the original design, which I played competitively for years, did pretty well with it, but again, my goal was to become a great ball striker, so I needed a little better, a little more refined technology, smaller club head, softer metal, etc. And I just want to make note, had this club for 5 years, and I could sell this right now in great condition, and I've hit, I bet, close to 10,000 balls with this set of irons. The 431 SS steel that Arias uses is far superior to any other steel out there for longevity and consistency. I still get within 200 RPM of the spin numbers I got when I first put these clubs in play. So everybody has a most consistent golf club in the bag, or at least one iron that they find to be more forgiving and reliable than others. And for me, that's the 8-iron. For 10 Cup, that was the 7-iron. We've all seen that funny scene. He ends up playing an entire US Open qualifier with only a 7-iron and ends up qualifying on the last 9 holes. But for me, it's the 8-iron. I feel like I can do anything with this golf club. And one of my biggest issues with the modern clubs is they really minimize your ability to be creative with a club that you're really confident with. So I can draw this club, I can hit it high, low, faded, I can spin it. Doesn't matter. Anything I want to do with this golf club, I can do it. And so I think the reason why I'm bringing this up for this particular review is because I think too much technology is actually a detractor from good technique. And we've talked about this in our Leverage Strike podcast, but if you have a properly geometrically set up golf club that's balanced properly and can utilize all of the physics, in fact, all of the rules and science of physics that we follow on a day-to-day basis, you can find that it's far more easy to swing smooth and hit a long way. So for me, the Arias CR16 with the new softer steel is an even better club, and I've come close twice to 2 hole-in-ones, and I've only had these clubs for 2 months, and I've been within an inch of the hole twice with this golf club. One was for an eagle on a par 4, and the other was for a hole-in-one on a par 3. So some of us, we have golf clubs in the bag. As we go to long irons, we add more forgiveness to them, and that can be beneficial for a little while, but again, I feel like it's a detractor of technique. So again, simple technology here with the 7-iron, cavity back, no offset, sharp leading edge, plenty of bounce though for the wet days. You don't have to worry about mishits on wet days with the sharp leading edge. You know, if you hit a little heavy, there's just enough bounce curve there in the leading edge where it will slide and you'll still get mostly full distance. And today's a perfect example of that. It's a little wet, rain last night. It's actually kind of drizzling right now. And I just feel like I'm always going to hit these clubs solid. And so, again, sometimes too much technology is not the best thing. And in the case of these golf clubs, and for more advanced golfers, the CR16s are great. But again, if you want something a little less advanced, a little more forgiving, the D23s can't be beat. And honestly, I think you could buy one set of these golf clubs and they might last an entire lifetime if you take good care of them. So the next club that I'm going to be reviewing is the 6-iron. Now, if I were going to build a set of golf clubs that were a little more forgiving, 6 through 4-iron, I think I would probably go to the D23s. But again, I'm all about the purity of technique, as Mo Norman would say. And for me, I love this small head. I love the fact that the weighting is right. It's in balance. I just feel like I don't have to swing as hard with this golf club as I do with the modern golf club to make it fly. So now we're on to the 5-iron, and one of my biggest issues with the modern 5-iron is it's just too damn forgiving. If I've got a tucked right pin or a tucked left pin behind a bunker and I've got to fly at 200 yards, I feel like I can only hit one specific shot. Whereas with a blade like this, I can draw it, I can fade it, I can hit it high, I can hit it low. And again, if you just take a look at Tiger Woods' clubs for years, he was probably the best shot maker in the game. He played true blades his entire career with minimal offset. There's something to be said for that. So for those of you guys out there that are wanting to learn how to work the ball, you want to play a draw into a left pin like so. Or you want to play a fade into a right pin like this. Or maybe you're interested in hitting a high shot into a really hard green and you're just going to play your natural shot, which for me is a fade. That's not an issue with these golf clubs. All you have to do is swing and trust, and your mind will do the rest. So again, as far as purity of technique goes and just general design of a golf club, I believe simpler is better. Am I a little biased? Yes, I'm a great ball striker, probably one of the greatest on earth right now. But that doesn't detract from the fact that I've tried every other club on the market. And in my opinion, over time, what I've found is simpler is just far better if you're looking to have better technique. And finally, we have the 4-iron. Now, for me, I love my long irons to be workable, but more importantly, I love them to be able to go low. I play a lot in the wind. I live out, I call it the Midwest. Others would say it's the West, but most of my competitive golf is played between Nevada, Arizona, Texas, Colorado, and Wyoming. And trust me, the wind in this region, as many of you already know, is pretty serious. That's why we have a lot of links courses out here, and why a lot of trees don't grow as well, I would imagine. At least not unless they're in the foothills. So low shots are extremely important. And what I found with the Arias irons, because the geometry is set up more in line without offset, I can really put that ball in the back of my stance and trust it's not going to be blocked, or it's not going to go left if I fully release it. And I can hit some real beautiful stingers like so. That slow rise, start low, rise, and have a ton of spin on them. So they take 2 hops, check, and are very, very, very repeatable. And more importantly, predictable. So if I'm into a headwind, I don't have to sit there and think about, okay, I have this cavity back technology, I have hollow back technology, I have, weighting that's in the toe, whatever, and I have to offset all that to hit it low because the toe is going to try to turn over on me at impact. With Arias closed, because the geometry is set up in the sacred manner, in the proper manner, I can now manage the club face far superiorly. So if I'm into a headwind, I just put it in the back of the stance, trust, and swing normal. And I get beautiful low shots that rise up. And then of course I can work it left to right, right to left, depending on where the wind's coming from, which will allow me to stand the ball up into the wind to give me further capability to be predictable in tougher conditions. So on this next shot, I'm going to show you the opposite of that, which is you can also go really high with these irons, much more so than I ever anticipated. And in the modern game today, with the modern ball, the modern greens, you really need to be able to hit the ball high. And I'm a low ball hitter. And in the past, I would try to hit these long irons high, and I would tend to leave the club face open or maybe slightly closed because I would have to manipulate my path, my angles. But with proper geometry and less technology, if I want to hit it high now, I can simply trust just putting it in the front of my stance and swinging absolutely normal, and the ball will come out high. Just like so. So now when I get to those 230, 240 yard par 4s that I need to land it soft on, it's way simpler. Tee it just a touch higher, move it to the front of my stance. Worst case scenario, I hit it top of the face, but again, they have the cavity back technology, so it flies nearly to the hole, has a little bit of top spin, rolls onto the green, and I got a 30-footer. And I've experienced it a number of times where I've gotten to a really tough green, I've had to fly it over a bunker and land it soft, and I've been able to hold the green and keep it within 20 feet of where it landed every single time, which again leads to predictability. And when it comes to long irons, that's probably the most important thing to have, is predictability and consistency. And I gotta say, simpler is better here. Less technology, sharp leading edge, cavity backs with 0 offset, and I feel like I could dial a dumpster in from 300 yards away and hit it consistently with ease. All right, guys, so this is the range review. Now I'm going to show you a few shots that I've hit on the course, both good and bad, and just kind of talk you through a voiceover of what I liked about the golf club and what I didn't like, because again, no club is perfect, so we have to take a minute to talk a little bit about the cons of this golf club. Mishits aren't going to go nearly as far as the modern club, so if you go with the CR16s, you need to be, I'd say, at least a sub 10 handicap. But if you're going to go with the D23s, I think it fits every recreational golfer out there, and even all the way down to 5 handicappers can really benefit from having the D23s, because they're so forgiving, so light, so well made, so balanced, that you're going to be more consistent with less practice. But again, if you want to go with the CR16s, you got to practice, you got to put the work in, and you need to have proper technique. But I don't think you can develop proper technique unless you go to a club like this, because once you add offset in, it forces you to become a timing golfer. It forces you to use the small muscles in your hands to hit golf shots, which is not what we do here at the TMG Academy. So again, like I said, I'm slightly biased. I need something that is perfectly balanced, both from a biomechanical point of view for my body, from a physics point of view, so it manages itself and I don't have to swing it or time it or release it or anything like that. It releases itself. And then finally, geometrically, I need something that can be flat enough, because the modern clubs today are just too upright for you to hit consistently unless you're timing it. With a flatter swing, you might miss a little left or right, but you're going to hit it pure all the time. So you might be coming in from this angle and you release it a touch late. It's still pure, goes a little bit right, maybe it curves back a touch, or you release it a little bit early. You hit it down low a little, it starts a little left, maybe it fades back a touch, but your dispersion is very tight because you're hitting it extremely consistently. And I think if you can't flatten your clubs enough, which 99% of modern clubs today you cannot flatten because it will crack the hosel, you're doing yourself a disservice. So from my standpoint, there's no better club on the market, and I would compare these again to any Mizuno blade or even Miura blade on the market today, and I would actually say they're better because of the geometry. There's zero offset, true zero offset, guys. This is the key, true zero offset. So if you don't understand that from a geometry and scientific point of view yet, hopefully you'll be going through my process, my system, and you'll eventually understand it. So for those of you that are new to my channel, again, check out my swing development program to learn how to swing the golf club with zero timing and be consistent day in and day out. Thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed this review. If you have any questions, you know where to leave them. Thanks again, guys. All right, guys, here I am at Riverdale Golf Course getting ready to hit a little 5-iron into a 200-yard target. This is one of the longer par 4s on this course, and this is a miss hit. I just want to talk a little bit about where I ended up and essentially why these irons are so good from 200 yards. So I blocked this iron right. As you can see, there's a bunker right and there's trees right, but it was hit so firmly and so consistently that it was actually ended up pin high. All right, so now I've got a little sand wedge shot here from about 80 yards. Essentially what I'm doing is I've got to take, I don't know, maybe 20 yards, 25 yards off this shot. It's a back pin. I'm going to skip it into this hole. And, you know, one of the cool things about these clubs is I just feel like I can do so much more creative shots with different clubs. Normally, if I were playing a Vokey, this would just be maybe a 3/4, lob wedge. But instead, I'm actually hitting a controlled sand wedge shot here because I trust it more, because again, that sharp leading edge and the lack of hollow face technology gives me so much more feel. This particular shot ended up 15 feet from the hole. All right, and finally we find ourselves on a 190-yard par 3 over water, where I'm hitting basically a controlled 7-iron. And again, just want to reiterate that having a golf club that I can work both directions on par 3s is extremely important. I am a more advanced golfer, so again, if you want to do a combination set between the D23s and CR16s, I think it would be the equivalent of having top of the line Titleist. But anywho, just want to talk a little bit about the key with this particular club is that I'm confident over a very difficult shot, confident enough to hit a draw over the water, which ended up about 30 feet from the hole, just underneath the hole. And that's what I love about these clubs. So thanks for watching, guys, and we'll see you next time.